Hello ABAP guys, welcome to another video. In the last video we have created our first database table and CDS view in ABAP cloud environment. We are almost ready to create our first Fiori application on cloud. Now in this video we are going to do three things. One, adding UI annotation to the CDS view that we have created earlier and exposing the CDS view by creating service definition and service binding. And finally, we will consume the service via Fiori application. Without further ado, let's begin. Just to give an idea about what kind of Fiori application that we are going to create, I'm showing this one. By end of this video, we'll be creating similar kind of Fiori application that we are showing here. So we'll have sales order details, and when we click on any sales order, we'll be able to navigate through the details. And whatever the columns that you see, the column names, the positions, the filters, everything is written by the UI annotation. So UI annotations are so important when it comes to creating a Fiori application. Now let's head back to our Eclipse and we'll start adding UI annotations. Before we go ahead to the Eclipse, let's have a look at the architecture again. So now we are at data modeling and behavior level. This is the first step we are at. Here we have created a CDS view. This is data modeling. We are done with the data modeling and behavior definition and behavior implementation, which is something will add transactional capabilities to the CDS view. And we will be covering this as well in the upcoming videos. But for now in this video, we'll cover up the data modeling part. And also projection view is something we creating a projection view on top of the CDS view that we have created, which is a kind of consumption view. And there are two types of views like interface view and consumption view. We are not going to much details about the difference between these two for now, but at least I will cover in the future video, and we will not be creating any projection view. Also in this video we'll create a service definition and we'll bind the service and we'll expose CDS view to the Fiori application. So we'll be covering these steps. One, creating a service definition. First we'll add UI annotations in the projection view, but right now we are not doing any projection view. We'll do it in the consumption view itself, and the same view will create a service definition for that view and we'll bind the service, and finally we'll see the Fiori application. Now we'll go to the Eclipse and we'll add in annotations. Okay, now we're in Eclipse. So this is the CDS view that we have created in the previous video, and what we need to do is we have to add annotations. So this is a consumption view, so I'm not creating any projection view right now. So basically, as I said earlier, we'll have two views. One is interface and consumption view. Basically interface view will not contain any UI annotations, so that is to separate UI annotation will be added in the consumption view itself. There is a valid reason for that we will discuss in the future videos. For now we'll create everything in this consumption view. So this is not a good practice to create everything in a consumption view, but for the sake of simplicity we'll keep everything in the consumption view. I have given you the sample code for our for our UI annotations. You can head back to this repository ABAP on cloud, and I'll give this link in the description. So this is the one which is having the UI annotations. What you need to do is, so for now I'll simply copy this into so this is actually the CDS view we have created previously, and for the CDS view I have added annotations. There is nothing new, so I'll simply copy paste here. Don't worry, I'll explain the important annotations that are required so that we'll have an idea what exactly happening behind the curtains. So we'll start with the initial the seventh line. If you look at here, so this is the starting annotation that we need to provide. Once I create a Fiori application on top of it, so we'll compare the annotations, like how each annotation is reflecting on the UI, so that we will see that as well. So I'll name the type name as sales order, we'll give a value. So value is something sales order column name within the CDS view, and I will also show how this will impact on the UI itself. For now, even if I explain, it will be a little confusing. So once the UI generated, we'll compare the annotation and at the element level from the UI level. Okay. So searchable true is something we are making the search capability for this entire CDS view. So there will be a global search field in the application, and whenever we search something, we can get the records based on that. But for this annotations, we have to provide a default search element. This is mandatory. Whenever you make a searchable true, we have to provide a default search element here. So that means when you try to search in this search field, that search will apply on this particular column sales order. You can specify as many number as you want, so that a global search will actually, since we have made this one as a default, that search will apply on the sales order column. And here UI facet is something which we will use to combine specific columns into a group. That we will see in the UI how it will reflect, so that you will get an idea. Basically, we are just saying we are adding an ID to this UI facet, and what is the purpose. There will be different values for that. So filter, header, quick create. So we are making it as standard. And if you want to know more about these values, you can always go through SAP help, where you can find UI facet annotations. So for the now, type is identification reference. So I will explain what is that. We are giving a label to this UI facet called sales, and a position we are giving 10. It can be 1, 2 or anything. So ideally we'll start with 10 most of the cases. Now here comes the interesting part. First, forget about all the UI annotation that you are seeing here. Just concentrate on this one particularly, so that rest will be, rest are all the same. So if you understand this line, everything will be same. So UI annotation will start with @UI, and there will be a specific fields and parameters will be there, like line items. Each line items will have a property called label, position and importance. Label is something like a sales order, so we are naming the column as a sales order. If you go back to our ABAP development, like we have ALV reports, right? Whenever we are displaying an ALV report, we usually generate a field catalog, if you remember. So field catalog actually will provide labels, column position, whether it is editable. I hope you remember all those things, right? So these are the advanced way of generating a field catalog, you can say. These are the more far advanced field catalog concept. So this we are doing the same thing here using UI annotation. There is nothing fancy here. So we are creating a label and we are giving the position. So position can start from anywhere, like 1, 2, 3. You can also give 0.1. okay. So but the order should be in ascending order for the position whenever you specify. So I'll make it as a 10. So importance is something, suppose when we are accessing this Fiori application. So the beauty about the Fiori application that we create here is we can access in any device, like mobile device or tablet or in a desktop. So when you are accessing this particular Fiori application in a mobile, if you define importance like this high, medium, low, so if you specify it as a high, because of the screen width that we have in the mobile, so there will be only few fields visible. So whatever the fields that you want to show within the space, you can give the importance to the specific fields like high, medium, low. So accordingly those fields will be shown, and the remaining fields will be automatically hidden in the mobile devices or tablets when we have a less screen width. So this is the purpose of importance. And also, as I said, when you make this search capability for the CDS view, we have to specify a default search element. So when you search in that particular input field, that search will apply on this particular field. So next, selection field. So selection field is nothing but an F4. like we have suppose if you go back to our LV reports, we'll have a selection screen where we'll declare all the select options, right? So if you want a specific field as a selection field, you can mention that as here in the selection field, and this customer field will appear as a selection field. Okay, so this is one. And one more thing, value help definition. Value help definition is something similar to our F4 help. We can search, suppose if you want to search the customer and you don't know the values and you want to search the customers available, you will do F4, and we'll have a different filters within that, and based on the filters we can get the values and you can make a selection out of it, right? So if you want to enable this customer with value help for capability, and we can use this annotation value help definition. And what are the parameters we are passing here? We are giving actually entity information. So basically we are telling from where we need to bring these customers. For this column, when I click on F4, we have to display the customer information, right? So where should so system, we are telling the system you can pick from this view, and within this view there is a column called customer ID. Okay, based on this the customer values will be shown on F4. We will see practically when I execute the, and you will get a better idea. So selection field, as I said, we will have a select search field with created by as well, and line item as usual. Identification is one more thing. So this will be useful when we are navigate to the next screen. Suppose if you want to look into the more details, initially we'll display only a few fields, and on click of that particular line you want to display further fields, what are the other fields which are available, and you can keep them as a identification. So if you give this as an identification, if you remember, if you go back to UI facet annotation, here we are telling this UI facet annotation is nothing but identification reference. So whenever you define an identification, this particular field will fall into this particular UI facet. So wherever you wherever you add identification annotation, that particular field will go into the UI facet. That means that will appear as a, those fields will appear as a group under this UI facet. This is a sale, I mean label is sales. Okay, so these are all the annotations. So this is how we add annotations. Let me activate this. If I actually execute, we'll normally see the what are the fields which are there in the underlying database. So what is our underlying database? GC sales master. Now we are done adding the UI annotations. The next step is we need to create a service definition and a service binding so that we can consume the same in UI application. So we are till here, so we have done only data modeling, remember, and projection view which contains the UI annotation. So I haven't defined any projection view within the consumption view. Within the consumption view itself I have defined all the UI annotations. Usually UI annotation will happen in the projection views that we will be seeing in the upcoming videos. So we'll have a service definition and service binding for this CDS view, and we'll consume that in a Fiori application. How do we create a service? So what you can do is right click on your package, new, other ABAP repository, search service, select service definition, next. You can name the service. I'll say Z my Z sales data, sales order data. So I'm giving the name for the service, and next. Choose your request, next. Click on finish. So basically, what is a service? Service, actually, here what we will expose whatever the CDS views that we have created, which are nothing but entities. So each CDS view is an entity. If you look at our G Sales Master CDS view, this is actually an entity. So right now I want to expose this CDS view to the service. All I have to do is just simply copy this entity name, that CDS view name, and paste it here. That's it, you are done. You have defined the service, and just do a control F3. Your service definition is created. And if you want to also expose the remaining parts of this, so we have also associations, right? For customer and currency, you can also expose them if you want. So I'll say control C, expose customer, and also I'll export the currency data. Your service definition is ready. Next, you need to create the service binding. So actually what will happen in the service binding, we will actually bind to a protocol version and scenario. So the protocol version will be OData. So let's see how we can do that. So we have this definition ready, and we service definition ready, and we need to bind this service definition to a protocol, OData protocol. So this is the way you can create, and you can right click on your package, new, other ABAP repository projects, type service, and select service binding. Next, and you can give a service name, service binding name. I'll say sales data. And what is your service name? Which is just we have created, right? This UI C underscore sales data. So for this service we are creating the binding. So what is the binding type? Which is OData v2 UI. So we are creating a service for UI. So we are not generating any web API from here. So we can simply say OData v2 UI. Provide the description. Sales order service binding. Click on next. Click on finish. Okay, your service binding is done. All you have to do is simply activate this, and you are ready to test your Fiori application. Let me activate this. Alright, we have the service binding is ready, and if you want to check the metadata, so this is a service that is generated on top of whatever the views that I exposed. So when we go back to our service definition, what are the entities we have exposed? The sales master, and here we can alias here, like I'll say sales master. Just to make it as a readable format, I'll say customer data. This one I'll keep it as currency. Now I'll again activate. So when you make changes to your service definition and come back to your service binding, and you can check your service bindings here on the service folders, business service folders, and this is my service binding. I can just simply refresh this, and you can see the alias name has changed. So within our CDS entity, we have this association. They are showing up here, and at the same time these are the others entities that we have exposed. One is currency and also customer data, and country is something which is association within this customer data or currency somewhere. That is why it is coming here. Now the URL is ready, service URL. Let me have a look at the metadata. So what I will do, I'll simply click on service URL. And it will ask you for the credentials. I have provided my credentials, and this is the information that I got when I click on service URL. This is basically giving information about your service. And if you want to check the metadata, and just simply remove till here and type $metadata. So metadata will provide you more information about each entity set. What are the fields are there, what are the properties, what are the annotations which are there, everything we can see. So I'll press enter. Okay, this is the metadata. And this URL, suppose there is a UI developer in your team and you're busy with, you're not able to create a Fiori application. They have a different design for the Fiori applications which are not there in the predefined template. You can provide this URL to the UI developer and they can take care of in whichever way they want to showcase the data. Okay, so this is the information which is needed by the UI developers. And so if you look at, so I will explain one entity type. So if you look at this, we have entity type which is customer data. So where does this come from? Which is actually I have defined in the definition. This is the customer data type. In this customer, what is the label which is already coming from this CDS entity, and also what are the fields which are there in that particular CDS view. All information you can see here. These are all the fields which are there in that CDS view, and you can see what type of data type it is. Is it what is the maximum length, what is the text, and a label for each. So we are having the properties for each field which are coming from the UI annotations, as well as the data elements which are associated to each column. And also we can see the associations as well here. So this is about the metadata. So now we have to, now we will see how a Fiori application looks like based on this service. So all you have to do is just simply select this sales master, your main CDS view, click on preview. That's it. Your Fiori application is ready to launch, and this is how a Fiori application looks. If I click on go, the data will be fetched, and if I click on any line, so you can see this is a UI facet, and these are all the columns which are part of that UI facet. Now let me go back to the UI annotations and compare this each UI element with the corresponding UI element so that you will get more understanding, right? So as I said earlier, let me go back to the UI annotation. Let's start from the beginning. So if you see this UI annotation, we have type name which is sales orders and type name plural sales orders. So type name plural is nothing but the text that we are seeing here, so it's actually showing the number of sales orders here. So for this, actually we have provided the value here using the property type name plural. Okay, what about this sales order type name? When I navigate from here to the next screen, we have a title here for this page which is called sales orders, and this title is actually coming from type name. Okay, so the next thing is, if you observe here, when I click on this, my sales order is coming in this way. So let me check if I have provided any identification for this identification. So I have not provided any identification. So identification annotation will be actually useful when you are navigating from main view to the detail view. So even though I did not provide a identification, my sales order has shown up in the next screen when I click on this. So where this is coming from? This is actually made possible from the UI header and information itself, because everything you see is actually a header here. So all the information like page title, showing the value for the sales order, and these sales orders information type plural are coming from the UI header information. And as I said, which value it is showing? Sales order value here. When I navigate here, this is the sales order value. So I specified you take sales order value when I navigate here. So this is a field that will be taken from this column. The value will be taken from this column. So that's why I provided here. So this is about the header information. Now if you look at the facet will actually have a ID. This we can give any name, and I have provided a label as sales. So this is the facet label that I have given here. So if I change this, sales orders activate, I'll come back here and refresh. Did you observe? So I just made a small change here. All I have to do is activate the CDS view again and refresh my application. The changes will be reflected. Let me show you. Sales orders. This is not the case in our previous programming models, where we have to, whenever you make a change at the metadata level, you have to generate the service again, and we have to refresh the cache. I mean, there will be a lot of things happening. Very synchronous, I would say. Whenever you make a changes, that will actually, when you activate, will be reflecting in the service definition level as well. And the next UI annotation. Okay, we are talking about this search. Okay, search will true. When you make this is the global search field will appear, and when you provide a default search element true for this particular column, when you search for something, this search will actually happen on sales order column. So that's why we have provided as a default true. You can make this you can enable this search for any field here by using this annotation. And consumption values help definition. So this is actually picking up from this particular entity, which is CDS view. It is picking up the customer ID from that. So when I do a F4 on this customer and then I click on go, the information will be picked up from that particular CDS view. So this is made possible using this one. So we have already defined a association. So from this, the data will be picked up, and you can select any customer ID. So identification as a selection field we have specified for created by and as well as customer. So that's why we are getting the selection fields for customer and created by, and also we have specified amount currency code. So for this particular total sales, the currency code will be this column. So automatically they will be concatenated together and will be shown like this. So identification we have specified for city, total sales, and also for customer name. So identification will, when you click on, when you navigate to the detail page, and those will be moved to identification. So using, when you specify it as identification, those particular columns will be moved to the next screen. That's it. So we are done with creating our Fiori application, and this is how our Fiori app looks. And hope you guys are able to understand whatever I'm explaining here. And if you do have any doubts about any line in this particular program, in this particular CDS view, you can always ask in the comment section. I'd be happy to answer. And in the next video, behavior definition and implementation. If you look at our app right now, we do not have any actions here, like create, delete, update. We do not see all such actions. If you want to add actions, we have to go for behavior definition and behavior implementation. That part will be covered in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.